Munatiravanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yamunatiravanacharya 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jaya Om Vishwapad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stuttara Satta Shishimad Hisvaingreshala Esi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Namo Narayanam namaskritya narang cheva narottamang deving saraswating vyasam tato jayam mudirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityang bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So we're continuing reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1. Today we're going to read text 14. Yadva chitantyam gunakarma damabhi. Yadva chitantyam gunakarma damabhi. Sudustarair vatsavayam suyojita. Sudustarair vatsavayam suyojita. Sarve vahamo balingishvaraya. Sarve vahamo balimishvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatushpada. Willis? Okay. Prota nasiva dvipade chatushpada. Yadva chitantyam gunakarma damabhi. Suduštarair vatsavayam suyojita. Sarve vahamo balingishvaraya. Prota nasiva dvipade chatushpada. Krishnam Prabhu. With or without mask. Yavachitantyam gunakarma dhamabhi Sudustarair vatsavayam suyochita Matachis. Yadvachitantyam gunakarma dhamibhi Sudustarair vatsavayam suyojita Sarve vahamo balimishvaraya Prota nasiva tvipade chatushpada. Yat, of whom, Vachi, in the form of Vedic instruction, Tantyam, to a long rope, Guna, of quality, Karma, and work, Dhamabhihi, by the ropes, Sudushtarai, very difficult to avoid. Vatsa, my dear boy. Vayam, we. Suyojitaha, are engaged. Sarve, all. Vahamaha, carry out. Balim, orders to please him. Ishvaraya, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Protaha, being bound. Nasi, any idea what nasi means? Nose. In the nose. That's the proof that Sanskrit is the mother of all languages, and even German and English. German even more close, Nase. Almost same. Iva? Nase. In German, Nase. Die Nase. Yes. Iva? Like. Dvipade. To the two-legged. Brackets, driver. In brackets, driver. Chatupadaha. The four-legged. In brackets, bulls.
In brackets, bulls.
I mean, I don't know how to say so. Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The purport is quite lengthy, so if you have something to read along, it probably help you to stay connected. But first the translation. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the divisions of Varnashram according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashram Dharma like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Purport. In this verse, the words Tantyam Guna Karma Dhamma Bhi are very important. We each get a body according to our association with the gunas, the qualities or modes of material nature, and we act accordingly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the four orders of the social system, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, are arranged according to guna and karma, their qualities and work. There is some controversy about this, however, because some say that since one receives a body according to the guna and karma of his past life, it is one's birth that determines his social status. Others say, however, that one's birth according to the guna and karma of his past life is not the essential consideration, since one can change his guna and karma even in this life. Thus they say that the four divisions of the social order, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, should be arranged according to the guna and karma of this life. This version is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni. While instructing Maharaj Yudhishthira about the symptoms of guna and karma, Narada Muni said that these symptoms must govern the divisions of society. In other words, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana has the symptoms of a Shudra, he should be designated as a Shudra. Similarly, if a Shudra has Brahminical qualities, he should be designated a Brahmana. The Varnashram system is scientific. Therefore, if we accept the divisions of Varna and Ashram according to the Vedic instructions, our lives will be successful. Unless human society is thus divided and arranged, it cannot be perfect. As stated in the Vishnu Purana, Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Parapuman Vishnur Aradyate Panta Nanyat Tatosha Karanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. All of human society is meant to worship Lord Vishnu. At the present moment, however, human society does not know that this is the ultimate goal or perfection of life. Therefore, instead of worshipping Lord Vishnu, people have been educated to worship matter. According to the direction of modern society, men think they can advance in civilization by manipulating matter to build skyscrapers, big roads, automobiles, and so on. Such a civilization must certainly be called materialistic, because its people do not know the goal of life. The goal of life is to reach Vishnu. But instead of reaching Vishnu, people are bewildered by the external manifestation of the material energy. Therefore, progress in material advancement is blind, and the leaders of such material advancement are also blind. They are leading their followers in the wrong way. It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse as Yad Vachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Then his life will be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. If human society is divided scientifically according to Varna and Ashram, and if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Shudras. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited in this verse is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the directions of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths of our lives will be set. Otherwise, if we do not move in that way, but act according to our whimsical ideas, our lives will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. Actually, because people at the present moment are not following the instructions of the Vedas, they are all confused. We must therefore accept this instruction by Lord Brahma to Priyavrata as the factual scientific direction leading to the success of life. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Yashastra viding utsricha vartate kamakarata nasa sidding avapnoti nasukam na paramgatim. If we do not live according to the injunctions of the Shastras, the Vedas, we shall never achieve success in life, to say nothing of happiness or elevation to higher statuses of living. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayang Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tvang Sajivam Sadvaitang Savadutang Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatyade Shatarine Yadvachitantyam gunakarma damabhi sudustarairvatsavayang suyojita sarve vahamo balingishvaraya prutana siva dvipade chatushpada. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the divisions of Varnashram according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashram Dharma like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing in the very beginning of the fifth canto, and here is Brahma speaking to King Priyavrata. He's not king yet, but soon he will be king after he's getting these instructions from Brahma. I wasn't so present in the past few classes, and I read through some of the purports, and it's actually, I was amazed how this section is so instructive, like it brings a whole nother level of Krishna consciousness. Like one thing when I read one purport of Srila Prabhupada, which really struck me, was this point of we cannot only please the Supreme Lord by devotional service, which is a very important point in this pastime of Priyavrata. He was so renounced, he was even very fixed in his meditation on the Lord, but ultimately the Lord wanted him to do something else. So Prabhupada says it doesn't help even if we are most learned, most austere, at the end of the day, we have to please the Supreme Lord by our devotional service. And devotional service means to do something which is pleasing to the Lord. And what is pleasing to the Lord? Something that He desires, something that He wants. We cannot please the Lord by offering Him onion and garlic and all kinds of different things. No, we're pleasing Him by offering Him nice vegetables, sabjis, and rice and milk, etc. So Priyavrata, even though he was very fixed in a way, but it was not pleasing anymore to the Lord. And then the second point, which is very interesting, is that his guru Narada actually encouraged him to go that path of renunciation. But then another spiritual authority came and told him something else. And Prabhupada says that this is actually the expert devotee, he will be able to accommodate both of the instructions. Being renounced and, in this case, taking up the responsibility of the king. And then Prabhupada quotes the verse of Srila Rupa Goswami, Anasakta Savishayan, that renunciation actually means to use everything for the Lord and not be attached to it. So I found these are very deep points for us to consider in our practice of Krishna consciousness, which eventually will become relevant. In the beginning it seems probably more easy. We just, we do our service, we do our sadhana, but most probably for many of us, most who are sincere at some point in life, there will be certain confusion as well. What to do, what not to do, and what does Krishna actually want from me? What does my spiritual master want from me? Maybe some conflicting instructions, and then these kind of instructions will help us. And now in this verse, Brahma, he gives a very nice analogy of the bull. And I can very much relate to this now. Just a few weeks back I was in Hungary on the farm. I spent time in the Goshala there. And there also the ox, they don't have bulls actually, but they have oxen. And they all have a nose ring. And we went on the fields and did work with the oxen. And then I could really see what it means, why they have a nose ring. So whenever they were naughty, what was his name? Antardi Prabhu, who is a very expert Gopa, he would pull their nose ring and then they would do what he wants. So it's a very nice example how here it's compared to the Vedic injunctions, how they are like the person pulling with the nose ring in a certain direction. So the Vedic scriptures, according to our Varna ashram, give us the direction where we should go. And Prabhupada is very clear in the purport. He says, those who do not follow, I'm going to read it again. They are all confused. They will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. And I think that's really what we can see in today's world. And then he quotes from Bhagavad Gita that if somebody doesn't follow the scriptures, then he cannot achieve success in life, he cannot be happy, and he can also not be elevated. And even this we can see in today's world. Even though people are so-called advanced, they are not successful in terms of making spiritual advancement. They're certainly mostly not happy, and we can also see that they are not elevating themselves, but mostly they are degrading themselves. Now Varnashram is always a very touchy subject, as we know. It's some they can speak about it 24 hours a day, and some they don't want to hear about it in the ISKCON movement. But Srila Prabhupada speaks about it often. And of course it's also in a way confusing, because in our scripture we find different statements. Sometimes we hear statements like this where Varnashram is very much pointed out, and I mean Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Vishnu Purana. Prabhupada also quotes this verse very often, where it is said, there is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of God but by executing the prescribed duties in the system of Varnashram. So very clear instruction. But then we also have other statements in scripture which in a way appear to say that Varnashram is not so important, and especially for the Vaishnavas it's not necessary. Do you know some quotes which sometimes are used to make that point?
Discussion between Ramananda and...
Yeah, this is the most famous. Yes, Ramananda Mahaprabhu, he asks Ramananda Roy, please tell me what is the highest sadhya, the highest goal in life. And Ramananda Roy, he gives different proposals, and one of them is to... is he quoting this verse?
Yes.
He's quoting this verse, yeah. He's quoting that verse, that one has to perform his duty according to Varnanda Ashram and in this way please the Lord. And what does the Lord say? What does Mahaprabhu say?
It's external.
It's external, yeah. Give me something more. Just a few days ago I was listening to a lecture of His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Goswami, and he was making a very interesting point. He said, Mahaprabhu is asking him, what is the goal of life? And Ramananda Roy replies, what is the means to attain the goal of life? So that's why the Lord is not satisfied. He wants to really hear the goal of life, not how you attain the goal, but what is the goal? And then he says it's a very human tendency that we always want to know what should I do instead of what should I attain. I mean, I have this experience, no, that I just want to know what can I do, and then it's kind of this passionate approach. I think if I do something, then I will be happy. But Mahaprabhu is specifically asking what is the goal of life, and the goal of life is not, as we can hear, it's actually a state of consciousness, is to be a pure devotee of the Lord, and of course then in the highest possible platform, that of the gopis, which means to be 24 hours engaged in thinking of the Lord and trying to please the Lord. So that's the goal. And Maharaj is saying that Varnashram is not wrong, he's just saying it's not the goal, it's external, it's some means to attain the goal. Some other quotes you remember from the scripture where...
Indirectly, Lord Chaitanya said, I'm not a Brahmana Vaishya.
Yes, that's a very... yeah. Yes. Right, this is a very famous verse. We chant it when we worship the deities, no? This verse. I always forget it, I have to read it. Naham vipranapi vaishana shudro. So where he's saying, Mahaprabhu is saying that I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not a sannyasi, but still he's acting as a sannyasi. So it would be an incomplete interpretation of this verse to say that in this way he said it's not important to follow Varnashram Dharma. In fact, Mahaprabhu followed Varnashram Dharma very strictly. We saw this in many instances, once with King Prataparudra and also with Damodar Pandit. Because as a sannyasi, you're not supposed to associate with any woman or with somebody who is attached to woman. And so he rejected Damodar Pandit because he was slightly, he considered him to be attached to women, so he rejected him. He was following so strictly sannyas ashram. So in this way you can misinterpret also a verse. Famous verse is Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Gacha. You give up all dharma. But if you also look close, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you fight, you perform your dharma, but you just do it. Listen to me. Don't follow anything else. I'll tell you, fight. Follow it. Another very famous verse is actually maybe the most quoted verse of Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavatam, I think. Natyakta dharmam. Natyakta dharmam. This verse from, I think it's Prahlad Maharaj, where he's saying, even if you give up your duties and you perform devotional service, but then you fall down, there is nothing lost. This very Prabhupada like to quote that verse. So in this way, in the scriptures, we find also statements where they can give us the feeling that it's not so important to follow Varnashram Dharma, especially for us, because we are Vaishnavas. Are we Vaishnavas? Probably not yet. Srila Prabhupada, there is a famous conversation in Mayapur in 1977, I think, where one devotee, Harisori Prabhu actually, Prabhupada at this point, he was speaking about Varnashram Dharma a lot, and Harisori Prabhu challenged him. He said, Prabhupada, why are you speaking about Varnashram Dharma all the time? Because we are Vaishnavas. So, why should we don't have to follow Varnashram Dharma, no? And Prabhupada's reply is, Vaishnava is a very high platform, and actually we are not on this platform. And then he says, just this sannyasi, he was pointing out one sannyasi in ISKCON, like this sannyasi, having 6 different relationships at the same time. What kind of Vaishnava is this? So, yeah, there was some troubling times in ISKCON also. And I would like to just briefly speak about something I will not read, or maybe I can read something if I find some good statement from Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, written by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. There is one chapter, it's called Vaishnav Sannyas. And here Maharaj, he describes how Bhaktisiddhanta accepted the sannyas ashram in a very amazing way. As we know, his spiritual master Gorkishore Das Babaji was already gone, and he just sit next to a picture, a painting of Babaji, and he gave himself the saffron cloth and the danda. So he accepted it himself. And Maharaj is speaking very nicely how this was very controversial, because at that time there was no sannyasis in the Vaishnav society. The Vaishnavas were mostly Babajis, and they would live in seclusion. And that was the whole idea, based on these statements in the scriptures, like the verse we heard, you're not a Brahmana, you're not a Vaishya, you're not a Shudra, you're not a sannyasi. So for them, one interpretation was Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shishi Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. One interpretation was that this means literally you are not supposed to be in one of these ashrams or in one of these varnas, otherwise you cannot even be a Vaishnava. And For them, it was a prerequisite to take the dress of a Babaji in order to actually be acknowledged as a Vaishnava. So Bhaktisiddhanta, he took sannyas, and of course this was also an instruction by Bhaktivinoda Thakur to him. He asked him, I think, 3 things. You should establish Varnashram Dharma, you should write books, and something else. To establish the Dham was 1, right? And maybe it was 4, something else. And by Bhaktisiddhanta taking sannyas, that was his first step to fulfill that order. So he established the head of the Varnashram system, which is the sannyasi, who is even higher than the Brahmana. And here it is nicely described why the acharyas thought that this is so important, because at that time there were some Vaishnavas, Babajis, but the Babajis were actually not really acknowledged by the general populace. They would not approach them for spiritual guidance. And also in this purport by Srila Prabhupada, we can hear this mood of the Vaishnava Acharya who wants not only 1-2 people to practice devotional service, but actually the whole human society. So they were finding the way how to make the whole society Krishna conscious, and one problem was that in order for them to become Vaishnavas, devotees, they had to accept somebody as their authority, and they didn't accept the Babajis on one hand, and some of them might have been qualified to instruct, but they just couldn't relate to that. It was so, even for us, I guess, when we go to Radha Kund, sometimes, at least to me, if I see a Baba, it's a little difficult to relate, because you can see he's a different state of being. He's not really so much present in this external world. He's absorbed, and then for me it's hard to relate. And the other thing was the Brahmanas, they were actually not qualified, meaning they didn't have the adhikar to preach Krishna consciousness to the general people, and the Brahmanas usually are the head of the society. And here it's also mentioned that according to the culture at the time, Bhaktisiddhanta, being born in a family of Kayastas, Kayasta, that's also, for example, the family of Narottam Das Thakur. Those were kind of like kings or governors in a certain area working under another king. And they were not allowed to have the Gayatri initiation. They didn't have the Brahmin thread. But Bhaktisiddhanta, as Maharaj says, he took the thread, and he was criticized already for this. So he already, the first step was to show that I'm a Brahmana, even though I'm not born in a Brahmana family, but I'm a Brahmana. And then he took sannyas, and at that time also the idea was, if you become sannyas, you give up even your Brahmin thread, apparently. But he kept it, and also we see our sannyasis in ISKCON, they still have the thread. And he was criticized for this also, because they thought sannyas means you giving up also that. But I don't remember why exactly he said this is important. So Bhaktisiddhanta, he took this sannyas ashram, and why did he do that? He wanted to establish Varnashram Dharma. He established the head first, and he was very clear to be careful not to assume oneself a Vaishnava, too early, to think, okay, now I read Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam it says the Vaishnavas, they are transcendental, they are superior, and then now I'm a Vaishnava, I don't have to follow it. No, he taught, and that was one essential part of Bhaktisiddhanta's teaching, he always said, we keep ourselves below the Paramahamsas, and we worship them from below. And even though he was a Paramahamsa himself, he showed that by his example. He was chanting, unlimited rounds in a day, which only can be done by a pure Vaishnav. But still, when he started to preach, he came down to the platform of a Madhyamadikari, and he taught, we are not Paramahamsas. We actually worship the Paramahamsas. We serve the Paramahamsas. And we do that in the institution of Varnashram Dharma. Of course, in very few rare cases, there is also the Babaji ashram. In ISKCON, I think there was one Babaji. Prabhupada gave Babaji to one person. And in the Gaudiya Math, till today you see Babajis. I also remember in Mayapur, in the Chaitanya Math, that was 4 years ago. When I was regularly there was one Babaji, I think he was around 100 years old. And you could really see, what kind of pure person he was. And he was, I think, in Gaudiya Math since he was a very young boy, and he was a Grihasta, and at some point he accepted the Babaji wish. And he lived as a Babaji, and he was accepted as a Babaji, meaning he was accepted as someone beyond the Varnashram. But in Channel Bhaktisiddhanta, he wanted the devotees to situate themselves in Varna ashram. And Srila Prabhupada, following his example, did the same thing. In the very beginning, he started to marry his disciples so that they are properly situated in the Grihastha ashram. He made them brahmacharis, he gave sannyas, and in this way he established Varnashram in ISKCON. One thing he didn't establish so elaborately was the Varnas. He more established the ashrams. So the Varnas were predominantly Brahmanas, just devotees living in the temple, studying, distributing books, preaching. And that's certainly something we also know from his instruction. He wanted people to learn to be in different ashrams, to be kshatriyas, to be vaishyas. And shudras, they actually don't need any education. Right? That's the idea. They don't need education. And Prabhupada also makes a very interesting statement in this purport, and with this we can end. Sorry. And I was thinking that in this time and age, we also regularly see how devotees conduct some workshops. We had last year Mataji, Urmila Mataji, she gave the workshop Carrier Dharma. And then there's different workshops, how to find your Dharma, like Devaki Mataji also speaks about it. And sometimes you hear devotees saying, why it's so much focus on that, it's so much emphasis. But here Prabhupada actually makes a statement that, it shows that Prabhupada wanted us to find out. He says, in accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Prabhupada gives the instruction that it's our duty to find out, what am I? And it's quite clear that we are not on the level of Vaishnav, so we have to be situated in some of the Varna ashram, and we have to find it out, because we don't know. We are in Kali Yuga and everything is so confused. It's not very clear to us what kind of nature we have, so we should find out. And how do we find out? That's now a question. I would like to have some 5-minute discussion. How do we find out? Yes?
The Varna calculation.
Yeah, I was also thinking about the Varna calculation.
Your birthday and tell you.
So this is 100% guarantee, right? So if you make it and it says you're a Brahmana, then you just go to the temple president and say, Prabhu, You just give me lecture seva from now on. I just give only lectures. I'm a Brahmana.
I guess it can give some indication.
Yeah.
But traditionally, of course, there is Jyotish, which when a child is born, there is a birth chart. And
Yeah.
of course, the teacher will also see the qualities of the child and decide, determine.
Jyotish, okay. Yeah,
Jyotish and teacher, I would say.
And the teacher, do you think that you can just find out by Jyotish? Let's say you know a little bit Jyotish and I know Jyotish a little bit, I can just go and have a look and then I know my Varna?
I would say certainly that they could also observe the child, see, not only blindly follow Jyotish, but also see.
Yeah.
Even there is this ceremonies and the child grabs the mummy or the brain
Yeah.
or the book. I guess there's different arrangements in the traditional culture where we will try to find out. Of course, teachers are trained to see.
Yeah.
But like now, this
You had something, yeah?
And this one question comes up because you quote Prabhupada saying that the Prabhupada said the Varna can change
Mm.
in this life, what I call it guna and karma. So then what's the value of the birth chart?
Yeah. I just share some experience I had with also his Holiness Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. He mercifully looked at my chart at some point and he said, he made a point, he said, I asked him in this connection, that how important is it to look at the chart, and he said, we can transcend our condition. But then he said in a very, this was, he said it for me, he said, but we are not on this level to transcend. Means we have our karma and we have to take it into consideration.
sometimes people say, oh well, we are devotees, clapping 3 times in the hand before the deities, our karma is changed. It's not that easy.
Yes.
Most probably we're really very much under the influence of our destiny.
Yes.
To fully serve Krishna, if he changes our karma, it's kind of perfection of life. Not such an easy.
Yeah. So then, according to what he said, the chart is actually indicative. If a good qualified Brahmana looks at it, a Jyotishi, he can tell you. He can tell you, okay, that you cannot. And this is some very, I know from Jyotish study, there is a system how you can see how fixed is your karma. And this is not only, that the Brahmin will not say, okay, he will actually not say at all, because usually he will just give you some advice, but the Jyotishi can look in which area of your life your karma is more fixed, and in which area you have more liberty. And there is a system how you can check this. It has something to do with the fixed, dual and movable signs, actually, how the planets are situated.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Like in a fixed sign, not much you can do. In a dual sign, I think you have more freedom.
And to the finding out what is your Varna, Keshe Maharaj also tells that we should be introspective, of course, and ask others and try out. And then he makes the point that actually we should find out really what we really need and defines our personality. And that you cannot let go of some tendencies.
Mm.
It's often indicating also where you are situated. If you're looking at with the Jyotish or whatever, you can also do by yourself.
See your own nature and your maybe attachments. tendencies you have. Yeah.
Shall I share the essence of a question related to that?
Oh, really? He probably doesn't call it Varnashram, but something else.
Yeah, because in his book, Think Like a Monk, he has a whole chapter on Varnashram. And he speaks about 4 different types, and then there is a link you can online, you can also go through a couple of questions, and then it gives you one picture.
Yeah, so one thing to mention in the end, because in the beginning it sounds so simplistic, find out if you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And Jyotish also helped me personally to understand it's so complex, because there's so many factors. One factor might be, okay, you have a certain tendency, but then there's other, for example, there's one thing, how you can actually earn money in your life. Jyotish can tell you how you can earn money. And for some, even though you have a, let's say I have a Brahminical nature, but maybe I cannot earn money by that due to my karma. And then I can earn money by being more in a Shudra, like I just work for someone. And I guess that also has something to do in Kali Yuga, everything being so mixed up, that it's not so clear. And this, And another thing which makes it complex is this can change in your life. So they have calculations how your Varna can even change in your life. Due to, it's seldom, but sometimes something changes. Due to your karma, you can all of a sudden, and we see that, the Tellerwäscher-Geschichte. Somebody is a dishwasher, and then all of a sudden he's some successful, and this because his Varna changes, his karma changes, and it's also part of his karma. And we hear from the scripture sometimes, in rare cases, somebody like a Kshatriya becomes a Brahmana. Who is that? Vashishta or Vishwamrita, one of them, no? He changes his Varna. In Ramayana, no? At least something in my mind.
Yeah. When the Varna is so related to the gunas, isn't it actually, aren't we actually meant to become Brahmanas anyways? Because we should come to the pattern of Sattva, and then Sattva through the Sattva, and then if it's like related to the gunas, you cannot stay a Shudra when you want to advance in the Krishna.
Yeah, in this there is a book, Bhaktisiddhanta Brahmana and Vaishnava. Brahmana and Vaishnava is the name, where he once gave a 3-day talk about how a Vaishnava is superior to a Brahmana. And in this talk it becomes clear also that a Vaishnava is a Brahmana by qualities. A Brahmana is, how do you find out who is a Brahmana? By his qualities. And in this talk he also proved that a Vaishnava has the Brahminical qualities. But in this way, mostly we can also understand that we are not Vaishnavas, because we mostly don't have the Brahminical qualities yet. You know what is the point? That if you are Vaishnav, a Vaishnav according to definition, you are a Brahmana, because you have the qualities of a Brahmana.
But still you have like different skills, so that's not the only thing that defines the gunas. Because we have to come to the Sattva. And we still can be like executing a Varna that is efficient.
Yeah, that's why it's guna karma. One thing is guna, and the other is your work. And usually they are connected, usually your qualities. But then sometimes you see Shudras who work as a Shudra, but their qualities are like that of a Brahmana. So thank you, and good luck finding out your Varna. May take lifetimes. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Gaura.
Marianne hat eine Route gehabt. Sie hat es gerne.
I'm not sure. I weiß nicht, wie qualified das ist.
Ich bin zu
Wie ist Braumler gesagt? Ich bin im Braumler. Ja. Es gibt auch so. Wie heißt das? Liching. Liching ist so ein chinesisches.
kennst du das? Ich habe bei der Fußlicht am Sonntag Klasse gegeben. Das Familienprogramm. Das nach 25 Jahren und zuerst mal Nein, ich kann einfach zu.
Okay. Es gibt zwei Möglichkeiten, jetzt zu sagen. Ist da auch angefragt, das Schwiegervater von einem schon. Aber ich schon gesagt. Ich bin ja gesehen. Ich frage es ein Stück nochmal, wenn er mal sagt, dann kannst du einfach morgen Sonntag und Sonntag.
Sicher vorbereitet, oder?
Should we got the game plan?
Huh?
Yeah, there is no loss or diminution. So. Jetzt sagen wir aber eine Zeit.
Also das gar nicht. Nee, die können auch schon gleich. Wir sind beide in
No, that's not a question.
Okay.